Welcome back to Politics for People. I'm Jimmy Fremgen. Today we're talking about lobbying and lobbyists. If you've ever argued for a later curfew from your parents or argued for a raise from your boss, you've lobbied. Lobbying is defined as seek to influence a politician or public official on an issue. We hear a lot about how lobbyists are bad for democracy or politics, but based on this definition, lobbying is just trying to convince somebody else to take action on an issue. Let's say that you're an angsty teenager that wants to go to a Post Malone concert. Of course, Posty is playing last, and to get home by your normal curfew, you'd have to leave the show early and miss him. So you get ready to make an argument to extend curfew from the usual 10 to 11:30. First, you explain. The concert you're going to see is not over till 10:30 and you need time to get home. You explain that you've been responsible and you got your assignments done ahead of time, so staying up late's no big deal. Even more, you ask your folks to remember the last time you went to that parking garage when you went to a game at the same arena, and that it took forever to get out of there. Once you get out of the parking garage, you don't want to be unsafe, so you ask for an extra 15 minutes or so you don't have to speed on the freeway. You knew you wanted something that the established rules don't allow, so you've prepared to change the rules. You laid out the logistics of your problem, you showed that you have taken personal responsibility ahead of time, you made the problem real by connecting it to their own experiences, and you connected it to their best interests and arguing that you don't want to speed because you want to be safe. If you've made your argument successfully, you probably want a better curfew. Congratulations, Kevin. You're on your way to becoming a big-time lobbyist. Anyone can lobby. Citizens lobby their representatives for policies at the local, state, and federal government all the time without being called lobbyists. A lobbyist is somebody who's paid to influence the government on behalf of other groups, businesses, or interests. If you qualify under this definition, you have to register and submit documents to your state Secretary of State or a federal official that track what you're working on, what you're lobbying on. You also have to follow strict ethics rules, and those dictate how you can do your job. If people can do it, just regular people, and the people that get paid to do it have to follow all these extra rules, what's the big deal? Why even bother hiring a lobbyist? You could do it yourself. Since lobbyists make it their job to get things done in government, but they themselves don't have any actual power to do it, they rely on elected officials and the people that work for them to get it done. That means that they have to have relationships with the people that are in these positions. This is a full-time job in itself. It means taking tons of meetings, making phone calls, going to fundraising events, networking events. As a legislative staff member, I always knew when a lobbyist was about to ask me to do something for them because all of a sudden they'd start remembering my name when we saw each other in the hallway, just so they could underline how close we were. Everybody has a lobbyist. Labor unions, disability groups, corporations, even theme parks. Nothing about this is illegal. It's the way that business is done in every industry around the world. If you can't get something done, you find somebody that can. The problem is less with the concept than it is with the reality. Spending all this time absorbing the capital culture, who matters on what issues, where they like to hang out, what motivates them, is time-consuming and expensive. In 2020, the amount spent on lobbying in the United States was a staggering $3.49 billion. So, since this is California, let's put that in terms that we can understand. If you laid down dollar bills on every inch of Disneyland's 100 acres until you had laid down $3.4 billion, you would have to layer it 89.6 times. That means inside the Pirates of the Caribbean, inside Star Tours, in front of Cinderella's castle. Every time you stepped, you'd be standing on at least $89. That also includes the backstage area. Chip and Dale are hanging out backstage and eating a sandwich. Chip goes to wash his hands, then goes back, puts his helmet on, and walks out to Fantasyland, or Toontown probably. Toontown, right? Walks out to Toontown to meet his adoring toddlers, the entire time walking on at least $89 under each foot. That's a ton of money. Personally, I'd love to have half an inch of cash under my feet everywhere I go. Sounds comfy, and also really convenient. So who can afford that kind of spending? Mostly corporations. Chip and Dale's owners, the Walt Disney Corporation, spent $4.62 million in the United States in 2019. In fact, there are studies that show that spending on lobbyists are one of the best investments that corporations can make. A 2011 study of the 50 firms that spent the most on lobbying compared their financial performance against the stock market in the same period of time, and found that lobbying was a, quote, spectacular investment yielding blistering returns. None of this is against the law. The problem with lobbying is that the structure of the system ensures that elected officials are more familiar with the people that work for big corporations than they are with you. You probably can't afford a lobbyist. By extension, This means that they're hearing more arguments about why, for example, a new disability access regulation is bad for, say, Disneyland, than they are about how that regulation would allow Californians with disabilities to access the grocery store, use public transit, or get better jobs. You probably don't get paid to hang out in meetings, hallways, and fundraisers for a 30-second conversation with a state assembly member that may or may not happen. But lobbyists do. So, don't like the law? Want to get it changed, but don't have time to sit around in those meetings? I don't know. Hire a lobbyist. Or do what corporations do. Get a bunch of your friends together, create an organization that has a name that sounds great and is vaguely connected to what you're talking about but couldn't possibly offend anybody. Put your money into that, and then hire a lobbyist from there instead.